Welcome back, West Side family. Oh yeah, you don't have to wear these online because you're smart. And I'm so grateful that we can stay connected in these crazy times, whether that's people in laptops or in living room watch parties all around Kansas City and beyond. I see like the McCullums that are joining us from Tonganoxie and other folks that are joining us. Gary, good to see you too. Love KC. And you may not know this, but there's a good possibility that there are other West Siders near you. So let us know in the chat or the comments where you're joining us from and who's in the room, because West Siders are some of the best people to get to know. Church is a family, and church is better together. And being together makes us stronger, like Amy, who took the anxiety in these crazy times and turned it into togetherness.
Hey friends, here we are in my garage. Like, this is how we do West Side watch parties at our house. And I just want to tell you that this is something that we decided to do a couple months ago because I was really struggling through this pandemic and the quarantine and just really craving community. And as I started talking to my friends, we found out the same. They were experiencing the same. And so I said, why don't we just get together and let's do church together. And Westside has made it so easy because they provide an online service for us, from worship to discussion questions. We've even had communion with Doritos. I'm not even kidding. It's that simple. And so we decided, let's just make this easy for everybody. And I really kind of had to get over probably my biggest concern, as silly as it might seem, is how my house looks. And we had experienced recently, before we started doing this, a plumbing issue, and our ceiling was literally gone in our kitchen. Our flooring was gone in our kitchen. And so I just had to let it go. And I was like, okay, just come as you are, but make sure you wear shoes so you don't step on screws on my floor. And we just decided we were gonna do buffet style and everybody brings something to make it super simple. And we just throw everybody in the living room, which is kind of crowded, but we watch the message and worship together and enjoy discussion and then a meal, and then we stay and play games. And the thing is, I just want you to know, if you're considering this, do it. You need to do it. It is so fun. It has provided so much support and encouragement for us. We've had opportunities to pray for one another and to just connect and also have a ton of fun during a really stressful time. So I just want to let everybody know that just make the ask. It can be a simple text. You don't have to worry about how your house looks. You don't have to worry about doing any kind of a big party and decorating or even cleaning. Just make the ask. People want to come. We rotate homes. Everybody brings something to make it simple, and we just enjoy being together and praying together and worshiping together. You can do it. I know you can, and I cannot wait to see and hear all the incredible stories.
What I love about Amy's story is that she refused to be overcome with anxiety, but chose to overcome evil with good. And together and with Jesus, we can become strong.
The Lord is my light and salvation. meaning it is now fighting the second biggest outbreak in the world.
To defeat the virus as we
Last 24 hours. That
I
is
also
slightly
want to
fewer
thank
than
We've received breaking news from the UK.
Fatality of coronavirus has been to say.
I also want to
Today, as we continue in our series Takeaways, we ask the question, what did COVID-19 teach us about mental health? Now, it would be absolutely ludicrous and naive to think that we could experience a worldwide pandemic, like the whole world, without having some impact on our mental health and the mental health of our kids. You likely saw the memes that were posted during COVID-19 that speak to this. Did you see the one, extroverts in isolation?
11:02. The mailman's coming soon. Hey, Mom. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing fine. Yeah, I am on the floor again. It's 11:06. Where is he? Where is he? At this point, I just have to sit with my plant sometimes. I just have to be around other living things. Hey, I know we're not supposed to, but do you want to go to the supermarket at the same time as me? I promise to stay 6 feet away. I promise. No, I will not hug you this time. I will not. Hey, I was just wondering if I could come over and talk to you in your front yard. Like you could open your front window and we could talk through the window. Would that be weird? Could I watch you guys hug each other? Is that too far? Too far. Too far. Okay. Text Sam. Hey, I'm about to call you on FaceTime, and if you don't actually answer and show me your face, I might die. All by myself. Don't wanna be. Look who got a dog. We're so cute. Don't tell Mom, but I actually did go for a drive. No, I stopped going to the Starbucks. They won't let me go through the drive-thru anymore. Guess who got a second dog? We're living our best lives. Anyway, I just went for a drive and I just saw other people out in their cars and it made me feel better. And at one point, me and another car were stopped at a red light together and I waved and they waved and it was great. It was great. Hey, Grandma, I took your advice and I just opened my front window and just started yelling hello and talking to neighbors. I know, I've only been reported one time. It's been awesome. Well, the dogs refuse to keep going out on walks. Now I'm just walking alone. I did see a chalk the walk area and I just left my name and cell phone number and said, please FaceTime me, anyone. So we'll see. I'm hopeful.
That is pretty funny. Well, that one's funny, but there's a couple of others that are posted that I really want to kind of bring to your attention. Here's one. Day 7 at home and the dog is looking at me like, see, this is why I chew the furniture. Here's another one. Until further notice, the days of the week are now called this day, that day, other day, someday, yesterday, today, and next day. How about this one? I love it. Anyone else feel like life is being written by a 4th grader right now? And there was this virus and everyone was scared and then the whole world ran out of toilet paper. Yeah. And then there was no school for like a month and then it snowed. Here's another one. If you see my kids locked outside today, mind your business. We're having a fire drill. #homeschool. Speaking of homeschool, that created a lot of stress and mental health issues. Homeschooling. How's it going? Homeschooling. 2 students were suspended for fighting. Another student is requesting transfer to another school. The lunch lady quit on her first day. The janitor has never had to clean up so much messiness, and the teacher was fired for drinking on the job. Now, I haven't kept it a secret that I have personally struggled with mental health even before COVID-19. And it used to be taboo to talk about mental illness, and people just struggled in isolation. They struggled all alone. We're not going to do that anymore, at least not at Westside. We openly help people who are diagnosed with cancer. Mental illness is largely a struggle with brain chemistry. Something is off, something switches. And like all physical issues, they seep down into our soul and bruise it, and immediately, almost suddenly, it becomes a spiritual issue. When I experienced a serious bout of trauma in my life, it triggered an 8-month season of serious depression. And it led me to the Bible to look for answers. You know, the Bible doesn't use the word depression, but it's all there. Instead, it uses words like downcast, brokenhearted, troubled, miserable, despairing, and mourning. Nothing like going to the Bible when your soul is desperate. The psalmist writes, "As the deer pants for streams of living water, so my soul pants for you, O God." I found 6 prominent characters in the Bible who I believe suffered from depression and anxiety due to a traumatic situation in their life. Let me list them for you. The first one is David. He was chased down as a fugitive for 14 years by King Saul. He lost his best friend, Jonathan. He was covered over in guilt and shame over the murder of Uriah and the adultery with Bathsheba. His son Absalom rose up against him to take over the throne. And out of that, David penned 33 lament psalms where he cried out to God. I want you to listen to just one of them, Psalm chapter 69. David writes, "Save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. I sink in the miry depths where there is no foothold. I have come into the deep waters, the floods engulf me. I am worn out calling for help. My throat is parched, my eyes fail, looking for my God." Those are the words of a person who's struggling with mental health. And then we have Elijah. He's being tracked down by Queen Jezebel to kill him. He runs to the desert. He's all alone. He sits down, defeated and worn out, and he prays. "I have had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life." Again, those are the words of a man who was struggling with depression and anxiety. And then there's Jonah. You remember the story of Jonah. God calls him to preach to the Ninevites, this evil group of people who he personally despises. And so he initially rebels, and he goes through the trauma of the whole 3 days in the belly of a great fish thing. But then he obeys God and goes to Nineveh, and the people repent. They experience God's forgiveness. And this is what really causes depression within the heart of Jonah. Listen to what Jonah says. He says, "Now, O Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." And then who can forget the story of Job, the true story of Job? He loses all 10 of his children, he loses his business, and he's physically covered over, his whole body in boils. I want you to listen to the cry of his heart. "Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb? I have no peace, no quietness, I have no rest, but only turmoil. I loathe my very life, therefore I will give free rein to my complaint and speak out in the bitterness of my soul." Then we have Jeremiah. Jeremiah is actually even given the name Weeping Prophet. He lived alone, he ministered alone, he was poor, he was ridiculed and rejected by the people, and in the midst of it, he displayed great spiritual faith and strength, and yet we also see in his honesty that he wrestled with despair and a great sense of failure. Listen to what he writes. "Cursed be the day I was born. Why did I ever come out of the womb to see trouble and sorrow and to end my days in shame?" And the last one might surprise you just a bit. Even Jesus, fully God and yet fully human, he struggled with the trauma and the rejection of the cross anticipated. The prophet declares that Jesus would be, Isaiah chapter 53, verse 3, "a man of sorrow, acquainted with grief." So if we have experienced some depression or anxiety during this worldwide pandemic, we shouldn't ignore it or feel alone in it. We stand with some spiritual giants of the past, admitted their struggle, yes, even Jesus. So what I want to do right now is I want to give you some practical advice on how you can handle this post-COVID-19 experience and have some mental health. And so I'm going to invite some awesome people around this table to engage in that conversation. They are some crazy awesome people who do a great job at our Westside counseling team. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask them some questions, and they're going to give a response. And as you listen, I want you to identify at least one takeaway that is just right for you to apply to your life. Sound good? All right, let's dive in. Well, hello, guys and gals. It is so exciting to have you a part of this very special service that's going to help a lot of people. So just thank you for your time. We're going to dive right in, and people are going to be looking for a takeaway. And we're going to have a lot of takeaways, and we're just asking them to identify one. So we're going to dive right in, and Nina, we're going to start with you. And the question is, what impact will COVID-19 have on our mental health?
I think it's important to say, first of all, that having strong emotions about an event that's as disruptive as COVID is not a mental health issue. That's completely normal to have really strong emotions like anger and sadness and even grief.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of losses in this season. But on the mental health side of it, typically when there's a distressing event, we will see any mental health issues that we've experienced in the past. They kind of have the possibility of resurfacing. So if someone has experienced anxiety or depression, if they've struggled with OCD, fears of abandonment, that may resurface during this time.
Okay, that scares me just a little bit, because I've just shared with the congregation and all the people watching around the world that I've had about clinical depression. That's what it was called. So I need to take a deep breath and realize that, and I sense that, that it can actually reemerge again, and I just got to be aware of that.
Right. Well, let me encourage you by saying, if you have done work in that area in the past, you probably have some tools in your belt that you have gained. So just thinking of this not as a setback, not as your mental health is deteriorating, but that you are being presented with a new trigger, a new challenge, and you can probably go back and think about some of the things that helped you in the past that would be really helpful to implement now. So this is just a new trigger.
I might even be better prepared than maybe another person because I've experienced it before. Excellent, good stuff, good stuff. You ready for question number 2?
Sure.
Okay, question number 2 is, and I think this is really important, I want everyone to lean in that's watching, is what are the symptoms of PTSD? First of all, what is PTSD and what are the symptoms? Because we had this conversation and I think it's super fascinating.
Yeah. Well, first of all, PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. And so to define trauma, a trauma is anything we experience in life as scary or threatening, and that really changes the way we do life. And so when we experience a trauma, it is normal to kind of like go from our kind of logic thinking brain to our downstairs brain, which is where we are more in survival mode. It's not abnormal to respond to a trauma by having a little bit of disruption in your life. PTSD is when we it's sort of like we get stuck in the downstairs brain, in the subcortical brain, where we're responding with fight or flight or freeze. And so if we see ourselves having symptoms that are really disruptive to our lives and really disruptive to our functioning, that is maybe when we should reach out for help. So some of those things to watch for might be emotions that are really on the extreme ends of the spectrum, like panic or complete numbness. So if we are noticing things like nightmares and sleep disruption, if we are noticing a lot of mood swings and irritability and anger, especially because coping with trauma, it's so important to be able to go to other people and to connect with other people. One of the symptoms of PTSD is that we really disconnect, and we have trouble even having loving feelings with other people. So those are some things to watch for. Obviously, increased alcohol use, drug use, that includes tobacco and marijuana. We might maybe even shopping, whatever things we can do to kind of numb out. Because avoidance is huge in PTSD.
This is really helpful, and for everybody watching, this completely aligns with my story, where I had a traumatic experience, and I had many in the past, so I had some gloomy days, whatever, but it wasn't like constant lower, up, downstairs kind of stuff. That when I realized it was constant, all the things that you refer to, and even sort of ways to kind of, just all the signs with with the exception of shopping, was there. Any comments you guys want to make before we go to the next comment?
I would add, you can also experience physiological symptoms like stomach aches or headaches or just tension in your body that just gets prolonged and extended. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Let's go to question number 2. And if you want to go back to another question, we want to give the people watching the best. Sarah, I'm going to ask you this question about parenting, because on our survey that we gave our people, parenting through the COVID-19 and all the issues actually was number 1. And so now this related to mental health, you know, kind of go together. So here's the question. What are 3 things we need to know to parent our children on the other side of this?
3 things I would encourage: connection, curiosity, and care. And so for connection, I mean, just like Nina had mentioned, this upstairs, downstairs brain, when we are in this agitated state or our kids are in that state, our downstairs brain takes over. Our logical upstairs brain cannot function. And so as a parent, knowing that and being able to connect, using your attachment relationship with your child, those kind eyes, the soft voice, the gentle touch, when they're feeling like the last thing you want to do is hug them, that can help bring them down. And then the next step being curious, giving their brain the opportunity to understand what they're experiencing is really good for brain development. So just asking those questions of like, wow, you look upset. I wonder what was going on for you. You might guess wrong, but that's okay. They'll correct you. And then you can open up this dialogue to really understand. Then after you get that and we're calm, you can then engage your logic brain and start doing the discipline piece and be like, well, remember our rule and what should we do and so forth. Then that third one, care, I save that one for parents. We're all experiencing this, and just like when our kids get into their downstairs brain, we as parents do too. And so if we remember, we need to take time to care for ourselves as well, reaching out and having connections with people, with God, whatever we need to do to put ourselves in that good position to be able to do these things with our kids.
Those are amazing. So the same again, connection,
curiosity
and care. Okay. And I got introduced to this concept of upstairs and downstairs brain and have done a lot more reading on it since, and you guys are right about that. And I would really encourage people to really check in to that experience, because we want to live upstairs, right? We have to live downstairs sometimes for certain things, but we don't want to stay down in the basement for a super long time. That is really, really helpful, really good. Anybody want to make any other comments about the parenting side of things? That was really well done.
I will. The only thing I'll add, because we see it in the rooms when we're talking to people at this point, it's really okay to not want to spend every moment together with people you love. And we're in that weird tension, but I see it, and especially more with moms, not that dads don't love their kids, but moms carry this guilt of, I feel bad that I don't want to spend more time with my kids. We're not wired to be together 24/7, and COVID has forced that. It's okay to say, I'm going to the park by myself. It's okay for spouses to do things separately, because we're not wired to have to be on top of each other. So give yourself permission.
That's really great, because parents experience a lot of guilt, and my experience is moms even more so. So wow, that's maybe the takeaway. I don't need to feel guilty for not wanting to be next to little Bobby 24/7. Good for you. Okay, hey, we're going to go back to you, Nina, for question number 3 on pace of life. Okay, so this is an interesting one, because actually there's some positives I would think with COVID-19. COVID-19 gave us all a chance to slow down as the pace of life picks back up again. What are some things that we need to keep in mind to stay healthy?
Okay. Yeah, I absolutely believe COVID did have, there are hidden blessings in noticing that the pace of life may have felt a little bit more sustainable to us in some ways, whereas we may have committed to an unsustainable pace of life in the past. I think that something to keep in mind is that, you know, we went for several months not being able to have big events or small events or connect with certain people. And I think there's a chance that there's going to be an unrealistic number of events that pop up for us in the next few months that will be almost trying to catch up from 3 or 4 months of not being able to get together in person or be able to have some of these celebrations. And I think it's important just to be realistic about what we're able to do and check in with ourselves and check in with our family members to find out, you know, is this something that we can say yes to, or is this something we need to decline?
Right. So saying no is okay. And I'm even hoping that we don't go completely back. Some people don't go completely back to the craziness. And I'm thinking mostly of young families who feel a lot of guilt. I did when I was a parent raising 4 kids, that we've got to keep up with the Joneses and all the activities, and I'm not a good parent if I don't get them started at 4. And we had 4 kids going every which way. So it's okay to say no, and maybe you've been out of it for a while, maybe it's okay not to ever get back into some of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be all right if I expand on that a little bit.
Yes, you sure can.
I really think it's important for us to notice that if we were engaged in an unsustainable pace of life in the past, we probably got there for a reason, and that reason is probably somewhere underlying in our fears or our thoughts. And so I think this is a great time to evaluate if we're carrying any kind of beliefs with us that are causing us to overcommit. Like, is this about FOMO? Do I need to start just recognizing that I can be grateful and be completely engaged in this experience that I'm having right now, that God gave me right now, rather than looking out? Is this about worrying that I'm not good enough? Like, am I valuable regardless of my accomplishments, regardless of what I own and what I do? So recognizing, taking God seriously, like you said in a sermon in the past, that is true about us. Our value comes from Him, not from what we do or what we accomplish or what we don't.
And I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, so that means I'm an achiever. And so mine comes from like, I just got to keep achieving. And so I've been that way during COVID, and now I'm just going crazy. So I really am going to take this, maybe another takeaway for me. I'm going to have 100 takeaways. Anybody want to comment on pace of life?
I would add to that, like your comment about we tend to get overextended, especially with our kids, and we want to give them every opportunity for every activity. Yeah. Boredom is really good for kids.
I love that.
It's so good for kids.
Say that one more time.
Boredom is really good for kids. It teaches leadership skills. Yeah. It teaches how to get along with others. It teaches negotiation. It teaches creativity. Yeah. All these it's so good for the kids' brains to be bored.
I tell you, I've listened to, I think, 4 GOATs, greatest of all time professional athletes in their fields, who basically say parents are messing up today. They're not giving their kids enough boredom, uninterrupted time, and they're never going to be the professional athletes that they're going to be, because all of us had plenty of time to create through boredom. Way to go. Okay, we're going to move on, and we're going to go back to you, Greg, on one relationships. Really, really important here. The new social etiquette is creating some stress in most of us. Give us some tips on how to handle this. Okay, listening. I'm going to get a takeaway from this because I am freaked out.
First, and I will point it out because it's what makes sense to me. Anytime you say new, that means something has changed, and all of us, as much as change can be exciting or fun or whatever, also it's scary because the more change there is, the more it allows me not to know what the rules are, which means I can disappoint somebody, I could fail, I could make somebody mad. And so all of us, it goes back to living into your values. It's the ability to go, okay, I am uncomfortable because I don't know what the rules are, so I need to talk about being uncomfortable and find out what the rules are. And so it will cause all of us to have some conversations that are unique. I was at a wedding not long ago, and part of it is me saying to the groom, normally I would hug you. Are you okay with that or not okay with that? And before I ask him, I have to decide, am I okay with that or not? And so it was this piece of, we have to figure out where we are. We also have to be willing to say to somebody, this is what I would normally do, but I want to make sure I value you, I honor you. What do you want? And it does come from that biblical space of, yes, I know what I believe is right for me, but I also have to be sacrificial. If he doesn't want a hug, then I need to live into that, not because, yeah. And so, but the other side of that, to part of your question is, we all are wired for relationships, and this has caused a lot of disconnection with that. And so the ability to realize not being able to touch somebody, not being able to be in space with somebody, should make us all feel a little uncomfortable. It's part of what Nina said about there will be a tendency, not having gotten to do those things, to want to go do all of those things because we crave that. And so it's okay to crave it while also understanding, but then I need to temper how I engage in that.
Yeah, 2 things that really come out that are really helpful, Greg, is, one is communicate. Ask the question, state where you're at, don't see it as and the other one is just respect. Respect the other person, and don't see it as rejection, as we get used to this. So I was just in a meeting last night where the 3 guys came in to meet with 3 guys, and they all had masks on. I'm like, oh, I don't have a mask. So I just said, I've got a mask. Would you want me to go get a mask? So just ask the question. And they said no. I said, are you sure? And they said, no, we're really good. And so.
No, it's really important because we do live in a world where we are all smart enough that we think we know what to do in most situations. Well, when the rules change, we don't, but we're uncomfortable just asking. And so your point's totally valid.
Okay, Lauren, I've saved the grand finale for you. This is yeah, I know you are, and this is the big one because we really believe faith is is the backbone of all of this stuff. So the role of faith. What role does faith play in our mental health?
It can play a significant role, but I find that usually the degree to which we have experienced our faith on a heart level, not just on a thinking knowledge level, to the degree we've experienced relationship with God is the degree to which our mental health can be positively impacted.
Yeah, it's not knowledge,
right?
Just knowledge. Knowledge is good, but it's about relationship. Just probe that a little bit more.
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about connection and relationship, and obviously we were created by God for relationship with triune God and with one another. So it's vital that we have those secure connections. And God provides that for us. I mean, He's a secure base, He's a safe haven, He's attuned to us, He's engaged with us, He's responsive to us. He shows a willingness to repair. He sent His Son to die for us so that we could have a relationship with Him. Just amazing, the relationship that He has for us.
So, and you guys have taught me this, and I've done some reading, and you're like so right, is that actually beyond just intellectual stuff, which is good, but if you allow a relationship with God, a connection, an attachment with God, which He so desperately wants for you, that we now have evidence today, right, that that's actually altering this upstairs that makes us healthier. Anybody want to, can you comment about that?
I was actually just reading about how when we read the Psalms, it not only engages our left logical language brain, it engages the right brain, the pictures, the images, the sensations. And so it's this whole brain experience where our brain is resonating with the brain of God, dare I say? And that's amazing because it has implications for who we are as people, our character, our capacity to love and to regulate our own big emotions.
That is, I mean, this is big, right? Go ahead.
What you just said is a highlight moment. Like that helps us to regulate our own emotions. When we have that bilateral activity, that helps our brain to learn to communicate internally better, and it helps us to stay calm when we get stressed out about life.
Yeah, it's not just the right information that's healing us, but it's right relationship, that God is actually altering and healing, removing toxins and all that kind of stuff from our brain. And we're now able to verify that through science. I just endorsed a book called Renovated, and the guy considers himself a neurotheologian, which is what you guys are absolutely talking about. And I really want to encourage the people to really understand that a relationship with God is one of the most healing things. And when you enter into that, you are well on your way to mental health post-COVID-19. Amen? Amen. Guys, you have been amazing. Thank you for your time. And we're going to make sure that the people know how to get in touch with you and to reach out to you as they think about their takeaways. So God bless you guys. Looking forward to seeing the outcome.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. And I just want you to know that these folks, and even more of them, are available to help you in your spiritual journey, your physical journey, your emotional journey. And whether you live in Kansas City or you live outside of of our city limits, and you just simply need to email us at care@westsidefamily.church, and they can give you some cool next steps. All right, of all the things you heard, here's my question for you. What is your one takeaway? What is the one thing that you're going to apply to your life to keep yourself mentally and spiritually healthy? Now, when I was struggling with depression, I had a daily pattern that I followed. Now, keep in mind, I was clinically depressed. Some of you are just going to be a little gloomy. Some of you are going to struggle with a little anxiety. I was in a really dark place. But every morning, I would run. And I want to remind you that exercise is something that God has given us. And when we exercise, it releases some beautiful, internal, God-made medicines in our body that create healing. That's why I exercised. And then I would cool down. I would take a shower, grab a cup of decaf coffee. You don't want to see this on caffeine. And I would head to the front porch with my Bible and a journal, and I would open it up to the Psalms of David every single morning. I was particularly drawn to David's lament psalms. These were prayers where David honestly cried out to God, like the one I read earlier in Psalm chapter 69. Listen to this. Of the 87 psalms that were attributed to David, 33 of them were individual laments. And a lament psalm has a pattern that's like this. It begins with his petition, with the phrase, "Oh God." I mean, and that's how I was beginning every one of my prayers, out of desperation, "Oh God." Then he lays out his lament. He starts with his struggles with his enemies, and he's super duper honest about what he wants God to do to his enemies. He then lays out his struggles even within himself, and then he has the audacity to even lay out his struggles with God. Then he comes to the end of each of the psalm, and he comes back to his trust and his relationship with God. I want you to listen to the latter part of Psalm 69. David writes, "But I pray to you, Lord, in the time of your favor. In your great love, O God, answer me with your sure salvation. Rescue me from the mire. Do not let me sink. Deliver me from those who hate me, from the deep waters. Do not let the flood waters engulf me, or the depths swallow me up, or the pit close its mouth over me. Answer me, Lord, out of your goodness, out of your love. In your great mercy, turn to me. Do not hide your face from your servant. Answer me quickly, for I am in trouble. Come near and rescue me. Deliver me because of my foes." That psalm really helped me rise out of the pit to a place of health, and it can do the same for you. So right now, what I want you to do is I want you to take some time to meditate and to pray about what's the one takeaway that's going to help you, and one takeaway maybe for each of your children, if you have children, that you're going to take away from this message to help you become mentally and spiritually and emotionally healthy as we move forward past COVID-19. God bless.
Amen. You know, when you have these takeaways, it's always great to share them. So what I'd like you to do now is, while you're thinking of your takeaways, take the time also to share those in the comments or in the chat. And that way you can join the really great discussion that's going on between Barb and Rochelle and Lisa and all of those folks right now. And if you feel like you would really love to be together with someone and talk face-to-face with someone, all you need to do is take your phone and scan this QR code, and it will bring you into a video conference room where you can talk to someone face-to-face. We would love to pray with you. We would love to be with you. Church is better together. And we're also publishing links in social and in the chat if you want to join us there. Thanks for being with us, guys. And as you consider those takeaways and place them in the chat and the comments, we're going to have Mitch and the team sing over you.
Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope with no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested, my life began. Ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name. My morning grew quiet, my feet rose to a dance. When death was arrested, my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was a ransom He faithfully bore. He canceled my debt displayed on a criminal's cross. Darkness rejoiced as though heaven had lost.